There are moments when everything appears calm on the surface, yet inside, the mind is scattered in quiet directions. You may be sitting in a familiar room, light passing gently through a window, surrounded by things that matter to you, and still feel oddly absent. The body is present, but the attention is elsewhere, pulled thin by invisible threads. This is not a dramatic failure. It is subtle, and precisely because it is subtle, it often goes unnoticed for years. If you pause long enough, you may begin to sense how rarely the mind is whole, even during moments meant to be meaningful. Something inside is drifting ahead or looking back. The habit has become so normal that it feels like part of being human. Yet awareness begins the instant we notice this division, not to judge it, not to fix it, simply to see it. That quiet noticing is the first return. There is a kind of tiredness that does not come from effort, but from fragmentation. It feels like standing on shifting ground, never fully settled, never fully anchored. Over time, this division erodes something essential. Trust in oneself grows faint. The inner sense of steadiness weakens. Decisions feel heavier. Even rest feels incomplete. The soul becomes busy, but not nourished. This fatigue does not announce itself loudly. It shows up as subtle doubt, a low hum of dissatisfaction, a sense that something is always unfinished, not because you lack discipline or desire, but because attention has been spread too thin for too long. When the mind is divided, the heart cannot fully arrive, and without arrival, even good moments feel partially lived. For now, simply stay with this awareness. Let it settle like warm stillness in the chest. There is nothing to solve yet. There is only the invitation to be present with what is already true. When attention is pulled in many directions, something quiet begins to fracture inside. Not all at once, and not in ways that alarm us. It happens slowly, beneath awareness, as the self loses its natural coherence. The mind jumps, the heart follows unevenly, and inner stability thins. Life continues, yet something essential no longer feels firmly rooted. This erosion is subtle, but it carries weight. When attention is split, there is no single center from which we live. Decisions feel unsettled. Emotions lack grounding. Even confidence begins to wobble. Not because of failure, but because the inner structure meant to hold experience together has been weakened. The soul longs for unity, and division quietly exhausts it. As fragmentation continues, a deeper consequence appears. Intention and action drift apart. We know what matters, yet we move inconsistently. We desire one thing, but our behavior bends elsewhere. This gap creates inner friction, a tension that hums beneath daily life. It is the discomfort of wanting alignment and living without it. This friction is not loud. It shows itself as restlessness, hesitation, and a sense of being pulled off course. The more often attention is divided, the harder it becomes to act with clarity. Energy leaks away, not through effort, but through constant redirection. The will grows tired trying to gather what the mind keeps scattering. Many people mistake this exhaustion for laziness or lack of discipline, but the fatigue does not come from doing too much. It comes from never being fully present in what is already being done. Mental scattering drains energy because presence is never complete. Each task is touched briefly, then abandoned inwardly, leaving nothing fully finished within. This kind of tiredness settles deep. Rest does not restore it, because the problem is not effort, but absence. Even moments of pause feel restless, because the mind has forgotten how to arrive. The body may stop, yet attention keeps wandering, carrying unfinished fragments from one moment into the next. Seen this way, distraction reveals its true cost. It is not primarily about lost output or wasted hours. It is about spiritual dislocation. When attention is divided, we are displaced from ourselves. We live slightly outside our own lives, watching them instead of inhabiting them. Productivity language cannot name this loss. Efficiency metrics cannot measure it, yet the soul recognizes it immediately. It is the feeling of being everywhere and nowhere at once, the ache of movement without presence, The quiet grief of realizing that life has been passing through unattended. Still, this understanding is not meant to condemn. It is meant to clarify. When the cost is seen honestly, without fear, a new seriousness arises. Not panic, but reverence. Attention is no longer treated as a minor detail, but as the foundation of inner stability and spiritual order. This gravity does not demand urgency or strain. It asks for honesty and patience. To recognize the cost of division is already an act of care. It signals that something valuable is at stake. When attention is honored, stability begins to return. When it is ignored, the inner world slowly unravels. Seeing this clearly prepares the heart for a different relationship with focus. One rooted not in pressure, but in respect, readiness, and quiet resolve. This awareness softens resistance and opens the door to understanding rather than control or force within us. And with that recognition, the path forward begins to reveal itself, inviting a gentler and more unified way of being. For many people, the first response to distraction is judgment. A quiet voice rises and names it as failure, weakness, or lack of character. Over time, this voice grows familiar, almost trusted, even though it wounds more than it helps. Yet a wandering mind is not evidence of moral collapse. It is the result of conditioning, repetition, and long-formed habits shaped by the world we have lived in. Nothing more, nothing less. When this truth is gently accepted, something heavy begins to lift. Shame loosens its grip. The mind no longer needs to defend itself or hide. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" a calmer question appears. What has my attention been trained to do? This shift matters deeply. It moves the struggle from identity to understanding, and understanding creates space for healing. Compassion toward the self is not indulgence. It is clarity without cruelty. When blame is removed, the nervous system settles, the heart softens. Responsibility becomes possible, not because it is demanded, but because it feels safe to take. Care replaces force, and care lasts longer than pressure ever could. So often, people try to fix distraction by attacking themselves. They push harder, criticize more, tighten their grip, but this only deepens the fracture inside. One part of the mind becomes the judge, the other the accused. Energy is burned in conflict instead of growth. When compassion enters, that conflict dissolves. Attention is no longer forced back into place. It is invited. This release of guilt frees an enormous amount of inner energy. What was once spent on self-judgment becomes available for change. Focus strengthens not through punishment, but through permission. The mind learns that returning is allowed again and again, without humiliation. Each return becomes an act of trust instead of fear. In this gentler space, attention begins to respond differently. It no longer runs because it is being chased. It rests because it feels welcomed. Progress becomes quieter, steadier, and more sustainable. There is less resistance, less inner noise, less emotional exhaustion. Change unfolds naturally, without violence toward the self. Emotional safety is the soil where real growth takes root. When the mind feels accepted, it becomes curious instead of defensive. It listens instead of resisting. This safety does not excuse distraction, it understands it. And understanding is far more powerful than blame. It allows patterns to be seen clearly and change patiently. Faith, at its core, teaches this same truth. Transformation does not begin with condemnation, but with grace. Grace does not deny responsibility. It makes responsibility bearable. When the inner world is treated with mercy, discipline becomes an expression of care, not control. Focus becomes an offering, not a demand. In a quiet room, with light resting softly against the walls, it becomes possible to meet the mind as it is, not as it should be. To say, "I see you wandering," without anger, and then, gently, to guide attention back, as one would guide something precious, not broken. This is how inner conflict eases. This is how change begins to feel possible. When the mind no longer fears being punished for drifting, it learns how to return, slowly, faithfully, again and again. And in that atmosphere of acceptance, a deeper teaching begins to emerge, one that points not just to kindness, but to a profound unity waiting to be rediscovered. Ichigyo Zammai is not something to be used. It is something to be entered. At its heart, it speaks of unity, a state where the inner world and the outer world are no longer at odds. Attention stops pulling in opposite directions and gathers into a single point of presence. In this state, life feels less strained, less divided. There is a quiet reverence to it, as though something sacred is being honored simply by being fully here. This teaching invites a deeper respect for attention itself, not as a tool to control outcomes, but as a bridge between who you are and what you are doing. When attention aligns, the constant tension between intention and action begins to soften. The mind no longer watches itself from a distance. It arrives. And in that arrival, a gentle coherence is restored. It is important to understand that Ichigyo Zammai is not a technique layered onto life. It is a way of being within it. When focus is reduced to strategy, it becomes mechanical. But when it is understood as a state, it becomes alive. True focus emerges when the separation between the doer and the action dissolves. There is no observer standing apart, measuring progress or judging performance. There is only engagement, whole and undivided. In such moments, effort feels different. It is quieter, less strained. The mind is no longer split between what is happening now and what might happen next. Thought slows, the body settles. Attention rests naturally in what is before it. This is not forced concentration. It is presence that feels earned through sincerity, not pressure. Undivided attention carries a quality of devotion, not necessarily religious in form, but spiritual in essence. To give full attention is to say, without words, that this moment matters, that what is here is worthy of respect. When attention is offered fully, even ordinary acts take on depth. The present moment becomes something to meet, not escape. This devotion is quiet. It does not announce itself. It shows up as care, patience, and sincerity. It is felt as warmth rather than intensity. In Ichigyo Zammai, the mind is not chasing meaning. It is embodying it. Presence itself becomes the meaning. Modern life fractures this wholeness relentlessly. Attention is pulled apart, scattered across obligations, expectations, and endless signals. Over time, this fragmentation seeps inward. The self begins to feel divided, thin, stretched. Ichigyo Zammai offers a return, not to simplicity as nostalgia, but to unity as necessity. When attention aligns, something ancient within us exhales. The nervous system calms, the heart steadies. There is a sense of coming home to oneself. This alignment does not erase difficulty or remove responsibility. It simply restores the ground from which difficulty can be met without inner collapse. In this state, identity feels less fragile. You are no longer defined by constant reaction. You are rooted in presence. The mind, no longer split, regains its natural strength. Wholeness replaces fragmentation, not through effort, but through sincerity of attention. Ichigyo Zammai reminds us that unity is not achieved by doing more, but by dividing less. When attention is whole, the self becomes whole with it. And from that wholeness, life is met with clarity and quiet strength. As this understanding settles, it naturally invites a question: how can such alignment be supported? Not just felt briefly, but lived consistently? The answer begins to take shape in how we arrange our outer world to protect the inner one. Discipline is often misunderstood as hardness toward the self, as if focus must be wrestled into place through pressure and control. But this view quietly strips dignity away. True discipline is not force. It is care given form. It is the decision to shape life in ways that protect what is fragile within. When discipline is rooted in care, agency returns gently, without aggression or shame. There is something restoring about realizing that you do not need to overpower your mind. You only need to support it. When the outer world is shaped with intention, the inner world responds with relief. The mind was never meant to battle endless stimulation. It was meant to rest somewhere clear. Structure becomes an act of kindness, not restriction. Overwhelm fades when the environment stops demanding constant vigilance. When surroundings are simplified, attention no longer needs to defend itself. It can soften, it can settle. Clarity does not have to be summoned. It emerges naturally when there is less noise asking to be managed. The mind breathes easier in spaces designed for presence rather than interruption. This is why environment matters so deeply. The nervous system is always listening. When it senses chaos, it prepares for survival. When it senses order, it allows focus. A quiet room, steady light, familiar rhythms. These are not luxuries. They are signals of safety. In such spaces, attention stops scattering and begins to gather. Ritual strengthens this sense of safety. Not rigid routine, but repeated gestures that tell the mind it is time to arrive. Rituals remove the burden of constant choice. They narrow the field of attention so it knows where to rest. When the same beginning is honored again and again, resistance lessens. The mind learns the path. There is comfort in repetition. It creates boundaries within which attention can relax. Without ritual, each moment requires negotiation. With ritual, presence becomes expected. The mind no longer asks, "What should I do now?" It knows. This knowing calms the inner world and invites steadiness. Through repetition, something deeper happens. The nervous system begins to trust calm over chaos. Instead of bracing for interruption, it anticipates stillness. Focus strengthens not because effort increases, but because fear decreases. The body no longer feels hunted by demands. It feels held. Consistency grows naturally in this atmosphere, not as perfection, but as rhythm. Small alignments repeated daily become signals of stability. Over time, the mind stops resisting structure. It leans into it. Discipline becomes less about restraint and more about devotion to what brings clarity and peace. This kind of discipline restores dignity. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are cooperating with your nature. Attention becomes something you care for, not something you command. And as this care becomes habitual, steadiness replaces fluctuation. What once felt like effort now feels like support. What once required willpower now rests on preparation. The outer world quietly guards the inner one. And in that protection, focus deepens without strain. As this steadiness takes root, it begins to shape more than moments. It starts to shape the way you see yourself and who you are becoming through repeated presence. Over time, attention reveals its deeper power. What you return to, again and again, quietly shapes who you become, not through dramatic moments, but through ordinary ones repeated with sincerity. The mind learns its priorities from where it rests. The heart learns its direction from what is held consistently. When focus is treated only as a tool, its influence is underestimated. But when it is seen as a daily act of presence, its impact deepens. Attention does not merely complete tasks, it forms identity. Each moment of presence leaves a quiet imprint, shaping character slowly, patiently, without announcement. Identity is not forged in single decisions. It emerges through repeated moments of attention given fully. What you attend to today shapes tomorrow, and what you return to tomorrow shapes the years that follow. This is how a life takes form, not by intention alone, but by presence practiced. Over weeks and months, this steady presence accumulates. The future is not built in grand gestures, but in small acts of attention honored faithfully. Long-term vision grows from this soil. You begin to sense where you are going, not because you rush ahead, but because you remain rooted. As presence becomes consistent, confidence takes a different shape. It is no longer loud or defensive. It is quiet and grounded. Undivided attention strengthens trust in yourself. You know that when you arrive fully, you can meet what is before you without collapsing inward. This self-trust is not arrogance. It is stability earned through faithfulness to the present moment. Inner authority grows when attention is kept whole. You become less reactive, less scattered, less pulled by every passing demand. There is a sense of standing on firm ground. With time, focus stops feeling like effort. It becomes character. Presence is no longer something you force yourself into. It is who you are becoming. Choices feel clearer. Actions feel aligned. Life is met with steadiness rather than strain. This transformation is quiet, almost hidden. There is no sudden arrival, no finish line crossed. Instead, there is a gradual deepening. Focus practice daily settles into the bones. What once required discipline now flows naturally, because it has become part of who you are. In this way, attention shapes destiny without spectacle. The smallest moments, held with care, carry lasting weight. When presence becomes habit, life feels less scattered and more whole. You are no longer chasing yourself across days. You are inhabiting them. This is how focus becomes identity, not by intensity, but by faithfulness, not by striving, but by return. Each time attention is gathered, the self is gathered with it, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, a quieter, stronger self is formed. Character shaped by attention does not need constant correction. It moves with integrity. Even in difficulty, there is less inner fracture. You respond rather than react. The mind stays nearer to the heart, and actions reflect what you truly value. As this identity matures, life feels less like resistance and more like cooperation. You trust your attention to return. You trust yourself to remain. The weight you once carried loosens, replaced by a calm strength that does not hurry. Presence becomes the place you stand, not a place you visit. And from that ground, the next step is taken with steadiness, not fear. It is quiet, durable, and deeply rooted, formed slowly and faithfully. It is from this formed self that the journey continues, beyond effort and technique, into a life lived with presence as its foundation. The end of a long reflection is not a call to act quickly. It is an invitation to slow down, to let what has been seen settle gently into the body and the breath. Stillness is not emptiness. It is the place where understanding sinks below thought and becomes felt. In quiet moments, when nothing is demanded, the truth of what you have recognized begins to integrate. There is no need to rush forward from here, no need to turn insight into achievement. Focus is not a weapon to conquer life or bend it to your will. It is a way of inhabiting life more fully, more honestly. When attention is whole, life does not feel like something to overcome. It feels like something to enter with reverence and care. Many people believe change must be dramatic to be real. That transformation requires intensity, force, or relentless effort. But the deepest shifts rarely announce themselves. They arrive quietly, through presence practiced in small moments. Change does not ask for heroic resolve. It asks for faithfulness to what is here is now. Each moment offers the same gentle invitation to return, to notice where attention has gone, and to guide it back without anger or shame. This return does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be sincere. Again and again, attention is gathered, and with it, the self is gathered too. There is comfort in knowing that nothing has been lost beyond repair. Even years of distraction do not cancel the possibility of presence. The capacity to attend is still here, waiting to be honored. Every return, no matter how small, renews alignment. Each one strengthens the quiet bond between the mind and the heart. As you practice this, life begins to feel less scattered, not because it becomes simpler, but because you become more rooted. Experiences deepen. Ordinary moments carry more weight. The world does not change, yet the way you meet it does. There is less resistance, less inner noise, less urgency to escape what is happening. Inner alignment is not a permanent state to be achieved once and kept forever. It is renewed through gentle repetition. Attention wanders. Attention returns. This rhythm is natural. It does not signal failure. It signals life. Each return is an act of care, a small prayer of presence offered to the moment before you. Over time, this practice leaves a trace. Calm becomes more familiar. Stillness becomes less uncomfortable. You trust yourself more, not because you control everything, But because you know how to come back, there is a steady assurance that whatever arises can be met without fragmentation. This is the quiet strength that grows from attention. It does not rush. It does not force. It remains. And in remaining, it allows life to be lived rather than managed. As this reflection comes to a close, there is nothing you need to remember except this. The next moment is enough. The next return is enough. Presence does not demand perfection. It only asks for willingness. Let this be your ground, a calm place to stand, a simple commitment to arrive where you are, again and again with patience and grace. And as you step forward, carry this gently with you. Attention is not something you master once. It is something you practice with kindness. In every quiet return, alignment is renewed. In every faithful moment, life opens itself more fully to be lived.